lumalabas na malaki ang problema dito sa kapulisan. Lumalabas na merong mga general, merong mga koronel na sangkot sa droga. Ako ay nananawagan sa lahat ng full colonel hanggang sa general, ako'y umaapila na mag-submit ng courtesy resignation. Alam kong mabibigla kayo, pero this is the only way to make a fresh start. Mahirap lumaban sa gera na ultimo ang kakampi mo ang babarel sa likod mo. Kinakailangan linisin natin ang hanay natin. Kailangan ang tiwala ng taong bayan ay lalo magtiwala sa atin.
Kami po sa Pambansang Pulisya ay susunod at tatalima po kung ano man po ang desisyon ng ating mga political leaders. Sapagkat alam po namin na lahat ng mga desisyon na ito ay para sa ikabubuti ng aming organisasyon at ikabubuti po ng ating bansa.
From the nation's capital, all sides, all the time. I'm Sean Yao.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. The big story tonight. The Bank of the Philippine Islands finds itself in the headlines today as a number of the bank's customers found unauthorized deductions on their accounts. Here's what we know. BPI explains that there was double posting of transactions made on the last 2 days of 2022 amid the New Year's Eve shopping rush. This means customers might find more credit or money in their accounts if they made deposits and less credit or money if they made withdrawals or outbound payments. For example, if a customer deposited 1,000 pesos, BPI system erroneously added 2,000 pesos. If a customer withdrew 1,000 pesos, BPI system erroneously deducted 2,000 pesos. Due to the error, some clients have claimed to have lost money in their bank accounts, ranging from as low as 3,000 pesos to 6 figures. Affected transactions were done through ATMs, cash-exempt machines, point-of-sale terminals, or e-commerce debit transactions.
For customers, the big question now is, has the issue been resolved? Well, hours ago, BPI announced that it has resolved all duplicate transactions on affected accounts. They have earlier described the issue as an operational error. For its part, the BSP said it's closely coordinating with BPI to address the matter. The central bank also instructed BPI to submit a timeline and updates on the reversal of the erroneous transactions. On the other hand, BPI assures its customers that their accounts are safe and secure. But with a high volume of inquiries on their banking channels, clients are warned of intermittent access to their web platform and their mobile application.
Let's get more insight on this with cybersecurity expert Angel Averia. Magandang gabi po.
Yes, magandang gabi.
Okay, BPI says problems are resolved. Naibalik na po yung pera. Is there anything that worries you about what happened today?
Well, itong kaso nito, it has happened in the past, no? Yung double withdrawals or double deposits. BPI says it's an operational error, no? But I think it's more of a software concern. It would be difficult to, the information that we have available is very sketchy. So I think it's more of a software error. The first incident about 2 or 3 years ago, I think, was caused by, again, somebody who was given the task of upgrading or updating their software made an error. So, ganun din ba? It's the same situation. Is it the same situation or the same thing happened again in updating the system?
Right, so can we rule out now that it's actually a cyber attack or some sort of hacking incident, and we can attribute this to some sort of, a careless error on the part of one of the employees?
There are no indications so far that it was a cyber attack, because if it was a cyber attack, hackers will not simply attack a system, but they're attacking systems for a gain. So there's been no reports that somebody, gained from this particular problem. What is affected are more the clients, client accounts.
Okay, are you happy with the level of accountability from BPI, all their pronouncements today? If indeed naibalik na nga po lahat ng pera na nawala, is that all that we have to expect from the bank?
Like I said, this is the second time that it happened. No, maybe they should put in more checks and balances in their systems as they are working on their systems. I think it was, that error will not simply happen as it is, and that the system has been running for a long time. So why at this period, the period December 30 to December 31, it just happened. So somebody must be working on a system, and that work on the system affected the software. Okay, so the BPI management should take more efforts and institute more efforts to really control whatever is being done, especially when it comes to the maintenance of the software.
Right, sir, marami nga nagsasabi baka daw absent yung talagang in charge kasi nga long weekend. Holiday kasi ang haba ng holidays natin, 'di ba? So but what learnings can BPI or other banks glean from this experience? Like you said, it has happened before. If it happened before, then technically it shouldn't happen again. But how normal is this, and how normal is a recurrence?
It's not normal. We have a practice in the IT industry when you're a developer, okay, and when you're maintaining systems, we have a practice called change management, right? You determine what parts of the systems will have to be changed, the risks of changing them, and then you have to go a round of testing. What happened before was it was the live system that was used, to test the system, or live data that was backed up. So, nag-double debit and credit din nung the first incident. So, I don't know what happened this time around. Maybe the same mistake, the same errors in the software maintenance group. I also understand that the operations of the systems has been outsourced to a third party.
Is it possible that one person was behind this software malfunction? And can you tell us a little bit more insight about how these systems are maintained?
Well, like I said, when it comes to maintaining systems, you have to review what the systems are, what the different components are, and you have to identify and pinpoint the particular components of the system that you would like to maintain. So especially if you're changing hardware, then you necessarily have to review your software, because the changes to the hardware might entail changes to the hardware. In other words, it's a full exercise first of determining what has to be changed, what changes have to be made, and how you're going to do it, right? And then following that, you have to do an exhaustive test of the system prior to putting it online.
All right, one last quick question, Sir Angel. You mentioned outsourcing it to a third party. Now, if you're paranoid like me, you would kind of wait, third party having access to a bank system. Is this a regular practice for financial institutions?
Well, worldwide, it's become a regular practice, especially with the cost of hardware, the humongous cost, plus the cost of maintaining the hardware and systems, and the constant upgrading that you have to do. So you can leave it to the experts.
All right. Maraming salamat sa insights at sa oras, cybersecurity expert Angel Averia.
Interior Secretary Ben Abalos wants higher-ranking police officials to submit their courtesy resignations in a bid to purge cops with links to illegal drug trade. In a surprise move earlier today, Abalos appealed to police officers having the ranks of colonel to general to tender their resignation. He says that this may be the quickest way to cleanse the police force of narco cops. Secretary Abalos adds that a 5-member committee will be reviewing the resignations filed. However, he did not disclose who will form this particular panel. Abalos said that they have a list at hand and that some of the officers being looked into hold key positions.
We are appealing. The word is appeal. Kung alam mo namang hindi ka involved, there's nothing to worry about.
The PNP said it will comply with the Interior Secretary's call for courtesy resignations among its top cops. Former PNP chiefs have since vowed to do internal cleansing within the police force, but this is the first time that such a concrete action was ordered by the DILG. More than 300 police officers have undergone investigation since 2020 for alleged links to the illegal drug trade.
Ito ay isang part ng overall na paglilinis sa aming organisasyon. Kami po sa pambansang pulisya ay susunod at tatalima po kung ano man po ang desisyon ng ating mga political leaders.
And high-ranking Army official Brigadier General Jesus Durante III has denied any involvement in the murder of businesswoman and model Yvonne Chua Plaza. Plaza was shot dead by two unidentified assailants in front of her house in Green Meadows subdivision in Barangay Tugbok, Davao City last December 30. After the killing, several posts on social media by Plaza herself floated Durante's name, alleging that the generally physically abused her. A bounty of 1 million pesos has since been offered by the Davao City Police to anyone who can give leads on those responsible for the killing. In a statement, Durante denies the allegations, saying that Plaza was a friend and that he did not harm her in any way. The Philippine Army, meanwhile, said that they will not tolerate wrongdoings of its personnel if proven involved in such heinous crimes. The Army leadership also ensured full cooperation on the PNP investigation for the immediate resolution of the case.
After the break, does the country's air traffic management system really need an upgrade after the airspace shutdown on New Year's Day? We'll find out and more with former DOTR's Undersecretary Ochi Tuazon when the big story returns. Keep it here on One News.
Sancte Iosef, ora pro
Er ist ein deutscher Papst und ich komme aus Deutschland und ich bin hier aus Dankbarkeit auch. Dankbarkeit und Liebe, um ja auch für ihn zu beten und eben einmal noch sehen zu dürfen.
Donae Domine.
You're watching The Big Story here on One News. The Senate Committee on Public Services is eyeing January 12 as a date for the inquiry into the airspace shutdown. That's January 1. The committee has also asked the DOTR, MIAA, and GAAP to submit full reports into the matter. The Civil Aviation Authority says they're looking at all possible angles in their own investigation into the airspace shutdown. Aside from the power and mechanical failure, GAAP has said that the country's air management system could use some upgrades. This prompted Senator Jinggoy Estrada to summon former Transportation Secretary Art Tugade to the inquiry so that he can shed light on the issue. Here to give us his take on the airspace shutdown, we have with us live via Zoom former Transportation Undersecretary Artemio Tuazon. Good evening and welcome to The Big Story.
Good evening, Ma'am Gretchen. Good evening, Ma'am Sean.
Okay.
Thank you for having us here.
Sir, your thoughts on this? Is the ATC system really outdated, considering that this was JICA funded? This should have been compliant with their requirements. And what really happened here?
Actually, if you will base it, Ma'am Gretchen, from the statement itself issued by CAAP, it was more of a power problem for them. They had the UPS, which was supposed to be a redundancy for the CNS ATM, but it did not kick in when there was a power outage. So we should be able to separate between the two issues. There is no issue with the CNS ATM. The issue was with the UPS, which when it failed to kick in, caused the system to crash.
All right, that of course, USEC or former USEC attorney, it's a rather old problem also. We have been using uninterrupted power supply units since, I believe, the 90s. And this should be pretty much like, everyone knows how to use it. So what really went wrong based on your understanding and, of course, your knowledge being the former Undersecretary of the Transportation Department?
Okay, Ma'am Sean. These UPS systems, they're redundancy and they're supposed to be backup systems for the main power source. Now, this UPS has to be maintained regularly. It has to be maintained. It has to be refreshed. There are certain things that you have to do periodic checkups and periodic maintenance of this UPS. I think and we believe that the periodic checks and the maintenance of this UPS was not done or not done properly. That's why it failed when it should kick in.
But in terms of our air traffic control system, attorney, it's not outdated naman. Kasi people are saying, it was mid-90s pa. But as we know, some of this technology, they can actually last, longer than a cell phone or a laptop. What are your thoughts on the datedness of our ATC system?
That's so true, Ma'am Sean. Actually, these are not like cell phones that you have to update them every year. The technology that goes into this CNS ATMs are much higher, in a higher level than the ordinary software we have. And this was just inaugurated last 2018. And it has been fully functioning since that time, up to the time that we left office on June 2022. And we had not had any problems with them since that time. Now, we turned them over to the current administration and to the current CAAP administration, and it was working perfectly well until December 31, 2022. It was working very well. It was only on New Year, January 1, when there was a failure because precisely the UPS failed to kick in when it should have done so.
Hey, sir, you mentioned redundancy systems, and if the CNS ATM system is not outdated, then why is it only now that government is looking to update or have a backup system? Ngayon lang po na pag-uusapan yan eh.
Precisely because, Ma'am Gretchen, there was no need for it, I think, previous to that, because the system was functioning very well. In fact, because of the CNS ATM, we were able to increase the slots in our airport in NAIA. We were able to increase the number of flights in and out of Metro Manila. Apart from that, we were also able to monitor the overflights in the Philippine airspace, which earned money for the government because these overflights are chargeable. They have chargeable fees on the airlines. So it was functioning quite well. And we have to separate the system as against the UPS. The power was with the UPS. So why address the problem against the system when the problem is with the UPS? You should be able to address the problem of the UPS.
But sir, aren't we supposed to have contingency plans just in case something bogs down, something doesn't work? I mean, that's the whole point of it, right? Like to act preventively and not to be reactionary if it fails to function.
You're so right, Gretchen. The key word there is preventive. That's why you have periodic checks on this, on the whole system, on the UPS and all other processes for the CNS ATM. Apparently, there was a lapse in the preventive maintenance, in the system maintenance for the UPS. So that's why it failed. If they had been doing the periodic maintenance and the system maintenance for the UPS, then they would have seen that there was a problem with it already. But apparently they did not see it because maybe it was not looked into more directly or more in detail.
All right. So, of course, thank you for clarifying between, the power supply issue and, of course, the system datedness issue. So, sir, you have said, of course, that our CNS ATM system, it is not outdated, but since nagyari na nga itong airspace shutdown natin, what is, how smart is it to have an entire backup system in place? We know it costs a lot of money, tens of billions of pesos. Would it be smart to have another system in place, placed somewhere else apart from where the existing one is, which has been suggested to us earlier, Gretchen?
Yeah. Ma'am Sean, I'm not a technical person, but if you will really look into it, logically, you will see that it would be difficult to maintain two CNS ATM. First, you mentioned already the cost is really high. To maintain a second CNS ATM, you have to hire people to man the CNS ATM. This does not function by itself. It takes a lot of people to man this. Air traffic controllers have to man this. And if it's just a redundancy, then what do these people have to do? If the original one or the major one is still is effective, they will just be sitting around. Then then you have a one airspace that we're looking at. We're just looking at the Philippine airspace, and you cannot have two different systems manning the whole country. It's like there has to be only one conductor for an orchestra. Otherwise, you might have problems.
Just on a final note, you talked about maintenance and problems with it. Is there a way to audit the maintenance by CAAP on the CNS ATM system?
There is actually a system for that, for auditing, for the preventive maintenance. The manufacturers, the suppliers of this have already designated the correct procedures for preventive maintenance, for their system checks and everything. There's a lot of procedures and there's a lot of processes which are already in place for this. And they just have to follow it.
All right, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. Forward Transportation Undersecretary, Attorney Artemio Tuazon. For more on this discussion, tune in to the Chiefs right after the big story. And customers of Manila Water and Maynilad should expect an increase in their water rates after the MWSS approved the upward adjustment for their mandatory rate rebasing. Manila Water will increase rates by just over 8 pesos per cubic meter. Households that consume 10 cubic meters will see their monthly bills increase by 41 pesos up to 187 pesos. On the other hand, Maynilad will be implementing a rate increase of more than 3 pesos per cubic meter. What this means is that residential customers who consume 10 cubic meters a month will see their bills going up by 5 pesos to almost 42 pesos. Meanwhile, some areas in Parañaque, Muntinlupa, Las Piñas, and Cavite have been experiencing water interruptions since the start of the new year. This is reportedly due to broken equipment over at the Putatan Water Treatment Plant. Maynilad said the service interruptions will last until January 15 and has assured that this will not be extended. If so, the MWSS says they are ready to impose rebates and refunds for customers affected by the water interruption.
It's every day that we need water. Hindi naman pwede na mawalan tayong tubig. And actually, we've noticed this and we've been monitoring this even before Christmas. We will not hesitate to keep on imposing financial penalties on Maynilad for every time that there's a problem that they are unable to provide the necessary and proper service to the consumers.
Right after the break, President Bongbong Marcos meets with top Chinese officials as he seeks to redefine ties with China. Let's get updates straight from Beijing. When the big story returns, keep it here on One News.
So what you're looking at here are the remains of an ancient Christian monastery. We think it was probably established about a generation before the rise of Islam, and it continued to be occupied for about 3 generations after the revelation of the Quran. It's important because it's one of very few sites like this found in the Arabian Peninsula. We have a site of similar date at Sia Bani Yas in Abu Dhabi, and there are about 5 other sites of this kind in the Arabian Gulf. I think what it reminds us of is that there's this really fascinating forgotten chapter of Arab history. We know that the Arab tribes who lived here in this region and more broadly in Eastern Arabia were Christian at the time of the rise of Islam. And that that some of them continued to be Christian for up to 3 generations after the rise of Islam. And I think that's important because it speaks of a tolerant society in which people of different faiths could coexist, possibly even tribal groups with different sectarian communal affiliations would coexist together in this area. We have some different.
You're still watching The Big Story here on One News. President Bongbong Marcos held meetings earlier today with various Chinese leaders, including Chinese President Xi Jinping.
To tell us more about what happened, we have mobile journalist Julie Baiza from Beijing, China. Hi, Julie. What do you have for us?
Disagreements with China should not define its relationship with the Philippines. This is what President Bongbong Marcos messaged during his meeting with Lee John-shu, chairman of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress. According to Marcos Jr., the two countries will continue to strengthen its relationship in the years to come.
I have always stated that the partnerships we make in the next few years will be partnerships that will stabilize and strengthen all our economies so that we are able to face the challenges and the different shocks that now we are already beginning to feel and will continue to feel in the next few years.
The president also said that many opportunities await for both countries. Aside from Lee, Marcos also met with Chinese Premier Li Keqiang and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Marcos said his state visit to China reaffirms the ties between Manila and Beijing, noting that the strategic relationship between the two countries is also significant for the Asia-Pacific region. Marcos, who arrived in China on Tuesday night, is set to return to the country on January 5, Thursday. Meanwhile, some Pinoys in Beijing could not hide their disappointment as they were unable to do a meet and greet with President Marcos due to the ongoing COVID situation.
Siyempre, disappointed din sila at kahit papaano sana ay makibahagi sila sa bisitang ito. Pero special po itong sitwasyon natin, naintindihan naman nila na una, maikli lang ang bisita.
For now, we have Julie Baiza joining us live online from Beijing in China. Julie, was there any mention of the West Philippine Sea issue during the meeting between PBBM and Chinese President Xi Jinping?
Seems like we're having another glitch.
Yeah, I think Julie is trying to tell us something, but are we going to try to fix that, Julie?
Baka naka-mute.
Sana naka-mute lang or kundi Mercury retrograde. May nabasa ako kanina Mercury in Gatorade. Natawa lang ako.
At trending yan ngayon. Trending.
So,
di ba sabi nila, if it happens twice, we might expect another one. Hopefully not. Not too grave of a situation, no? Before we go, the Ateneo de Manila University has won this year's World Universities Debating Championship held in Madrid, Spain, bringing the Philippines its first win at the International Debating Tournament. The debating team from Ateneo, represented by BS Applied Mathematics students David Africa and Toby Leong, bested others from Bulgaria's Sofia University, Israel's Tel Aviv University, and Princeton University from the United States during the grand finals. Now, the topic for the final debate was over the philosophical belief Ubuntu that asserts that people's identity should be shaped by and their obligations should primarily the ode to their communities. A great way to start the new year for 2 Ateneo students and the university, and for us as well. We have some
No,
good news.
finally! You know what? We were just having this discussion over the holidays that debate should be a sport and therefore it should be supported. And now I think these two guys from the Ateneo have given reason for people to support the debate team as
Tama.
well.
So actually, I found the debate on YouTube. So if you want to tune into that, you can just search for it, and you'll see, our pride.
All right, I'm going to learn more about Ubuntu tonight, and that is the big story tonight. For more updates, follow News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World online. You may also log on to onenews.ph for more in-depth analyses. I'm Sean Yao.
The big story is also available via Signal Play app. Make your free account now at signalplay.com and stream One News anytime, anywhere. I'm Gretchen Hall. Stay safe, Philippines.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.